Good evening and welcome to the Public Safety Committee. Today is Monday, March 27, 2023. Voting members today present. To my right, Councilor Infante, representing District E, Councilor Selena Reyes, representing the entire city, and Councilor Gregory de Rosario, representing District C. Pursuant Chapter 20 of the Act of 2022, this meeting of the Public Safety Committee is being conducted both in person and via remote participation. A reminder that the person who would like to listen or to view this meeting while in progress might either attend in person to the location above or use one of the following access locations: the Lawrence City Council Facebook page or the YouTube Lawrence City Council page. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, councilors, we are here today after a few months of this subcommittee met last time. So with that said, I would like to, I'll entertain a motion to approve minutes from 8/24/2022 and from 10/12/2022.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion on the table, properly second. We all here, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We have a few items tonight that we would like to discuss that are tabled from previous years. The first item that we have, and I would like to, councilors, probably take this as a package because there is two items related to basically the sentence. One is in general, one is very specific to the high school. Those are items 22921, second page, and item 35619. Both are related to the public safety of the public schools. One is in general, the other one is related to the high school. So can I get a motion to take both items out of table as a package?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Councilors, we have these two items. Item 12921, which is incident at the Lawrence High School, was put together by Councilor Levy. And the second one, item 35619, which is Lawrence Public School Public Safety. It was put together by Councilor Payano, today Senator Payano. So with that said, councilors, I would like to extend an invitation to the superintendent, which is here today. And before we start the conversation, I would like to say thank you, Superintendent Rodriguez, for being here tonight. It is a long-term waiting for this meeting to happen, and we definitely appreciate your presence here tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Rodriguez, and thank you for the invitation, and good evening to everyone. We did forward a little bit earlier just some general information just for district data for your review when you ever have a chance to review it. We did prepare some specific information related specifically to Lawrence High School.
Superintendent, hold on just 1 second. Do you have copies of it?
And name and address for the record also.
Juan Rodriguez, Interim Superintendent of the Public Schools, 28 Church Street, Merrimack, Mass. So the packet that we just, we gave her, we also, I think I emailed to Teresa, I don't know, around 4 o'clock, so you can take a look whenever you have a chance. Just some general incident information specifically related to the high school, as was in the request. Also included some general information about the district, how many incidents that we've reported as far as discipline for the school district as of year to date, as of last Friday.
So, Superintendent, we will have the report and take a look at it.
Sure.
In the meantime, in general, tell us about what's going on at the high school in general purpose, so we can just wait for that for the report.
Absolutely. So, by law, we're required to submit to the state all incidents through the school safety discipline report, which goes through the school interoperability framework that goes right to DESE. As of Friday, we had submitted 401 disciplinary incidents through the portal, which include anything that could be drug-related, tobacco-related, any type of violence, any type of crime occurring on school property, any type of weapons possession, and also any type of infraction that resulted in an in-school or an out-of-school suspension. So we had 401 of those across the district. Specifically at Lawrence High School, when we get the packet back, we reported, I believe, 17 mutual altercations, fights, could involve 2 offenders or more. We reported 10 incidents of assault, specifically at Lawrence High School, of course, more for the district. And those usually include 1 offender, but sometimes more. We also have, I believe, I'll have to wait for the report to come back, but I believe we reported 7 weapons infractions at the campus. Could involve a knife, or if a student tried to hit another student with some type of apparel on their feet or something like that. So those were the things that we reported so far. We get that back, we can go over exact numbers.
While we're waiting for the report, I would like to say that the Lawrence Public Schools are on the receivership. It's the first school that was taken over by the state, I believe 12 years ago?
Yeah, I think January of 2012, I believe.
12, yes. So 10 years ago, the state took over the district in Lawrence. So for those that probably don't know much about the history of our schools currently, under the state law, we are being administrated both on the day-to-day operation and budget-wise operation. We've been under the state for the last 10 years. So that's important to recognize. And now let's talk about what is in the report. So you might continue. Thank you.
Similar to last year when we presented in the spring, all school incidents are dealt with under our code of conduct, which align with Mass General Law. Also, with our social emotional learning competencies, our portrait of graduate competencies, and our learning expectations at the high school. I believe on page 5, we just did include some information on data collection and surveys, as there was an item in what was forwarded to us about questions about substance misuse in the city of Lawrence. So we did include just some information about 2 of the surveys that we collect every year with our students. The first is the Youth Risk Behavior Survey that is administered to all students at the high school, and also to grades 6 through 8 at 4 of our middle schools. And then also included information on the SBIRT screening, which is an evidence-based approach to identify folks who may be using alcohol or other drugs at risky levels. So those are just 2 of the data collection pieces that we do every year. And the SBIRT is administered to students in grade 7 and grade 9 across the district. So we just included that just because of the reference to substance misuse.
On that matters, can you add a little more as of how important those surveys are in terms of making sure that the school are safe?
I think, these are, both for safety in schools, but just for the general well-being of the community in general, so that we know, what are things that our young folks may be doing that are risky behaviors, so that, could be, whether we want to talk to students about the dangers of drinking alcohol and then trying to drive a car, same thing with the use of marijuana and then driving a car, things like that. These are more for us to identify kind of risky behaviors that are not good for our young folks in general, and that also may be affecting overall health of the community. And these may be things that we would address in our health class, maybe things we would address during advisory or circle time when we are talking to students in smaller groups.
With the respect to all the counselors, it is important to recognize that everything that happened at our schools affect our communities, same way as things that happen throughout the community might affect our school system. based on behavior, based on, you know, something that happened around, and that might go ahead and reflect different issues at the high school or any other schools.
I did include also, I believe it's page 6, and I'm sorry I didn't include the numbers on the page, but this page is just general changes in Mass General Law 37H and 3/4 that occurred in November. So this change in the state law now requires schools, prior to suspending any type of student for any type of behavior, is that we must consider and document how we've used mediations, conflict resolution, restorative practices, or collaborative problem solving prior to any out-of-school suspension. So we have to go through certain steps before we consider out-of-school suspension per state law. And again, this changed, I believe, on November 1st of last fall.
That's for all type of incident or just?
So there are certain exceptions, but for almost any other type of incident, we have to show that, you know, we've done a mediation meeting, we've tried to talk to students about how to problem solve together, things like that, and we have to document those prior to implementing any out-of-school suspension.
That's including issues?
You know, there are exceptions. If we say that there is no other remedy that we have besides suspending a student out of school, we can use those exceptions if we believe that the incident is serious enough that we need to implement an immediate out-of-school suspension. An example of that is if a student brings a weapon to school, knife or something else, and we feel that, you know, any type of meeting with the student is not going to explain to them the seriousness of the incident. An incident like that, we were able to suspend out of school without having to go through the other
Councilors, if you have any questions on any of the points that I bring it up, so by all means, Councilor Infante.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Superintendent. My question is, if you know off the top of your head, how many suspensions have we had so far this school year in regards to extreme circumstances like the one that the example that the council provided?
I think if you look at the next page, this kind of details how many altercations that we've had. Sorry about that. It says year-to-date information for Lawrence High School. So these are examples of when we may, out of school, suspend immediately. The last one I checked on Friday when I started running the data, we had 19 incidents at the high school, which are M61 incidents, which in our discipline code are mutual altercations, fights. So those at least have to involve 2 students. Some other times may include 3 or 4 students. So, you know, those would include some type of out-of-school suspension, maybe starting at 3 days, maybe going to 5 days. Also, for multiple days out of school, the next bullet for the incidents of battery, there have been 10 battery or some type of physical assaults recorded in our database for Lawrence High School. Again, this usually includes 1 student, but could be more. And then there have been 8 weapons violations that we've disciplined students for, and usually that is for more than 3 days, as these are more serious infractions. But I can get you the exact number of out-of-school days for suspension for total for the high school, and then also for students who have fought, and for students who have brought a weapon, or for students who have committed some type of assault. I can get you the exact information for all of those. And again, those are just as of last Friday. And as I said, you know, we are required by the state to enter those into Power School, and then those are submitted to the state. And all of our year's discipline information is on the DESE website, so if you wanted to look up the number of infractions we had last year, you could look up 2022, for example, and see all the infractions. Just some general information on the last page, again, about our support structure, specifically at the high school, and then we could get you more information on the district as well. Specifically at the high school, of course, we have the Lawrence Police Department School Resource Officer Unit, who serve the whole district but are stationed at the high school. We have 5 total staff members on the SRO unit, our unit commander with 4 SROs. We have 12 school safety officer positions at the high school. We have 20 school administrators at the high school. We have our main entrance check at the security kiosk. We have a manager of restorative practices, and we also have the UTEC street team working with us. I believe there's 4 of them who work closely with Quinn at the high school, working with students. As far as guidance and school social worker support, we have 15 guidance counselors, 6 school social workers, and 3 board-certified behavior analysts. The BCBAs are specialized folks who can do an observation of the student, note behaviors, and make recommendations to teachers on how to make sure that they're not triggering students and how to de-escalate students. We have 13 school culture specialists across the campus who work with students in the hallways, making sure they're going to class, develop good relationships with our students. Across the district, this year we've invested, I believe, around $700,000 in camera upgrades. The LHS interior camera upgrade is also almost complete. And then we've worked with the Lawrence Police Department to apply for a grant through the Safer Schools Initiative for hardening the facilities at South Lawrence East, Tarbox, and Weatherby to make sure that those buildings are safer as well. Again, that's just general information, and of course, any type of specific information for any school or the high school in general, we can get you exact numbers on all those things.
Councilor Infante.
Thank you, Chair. Superintendent Rodriguez, one of the previous concerns that I know I used to get, at least as a counselor, was that our staff felt like they weren't being heard. When they would come across difficult situations with students, they would report back and say, hey, like this is not working how we're doing it. I think this might work better. They weren't being heard. Have you, since you've assumed position of interim superintendent, have you conducted any surveys or conversations with our teachers, guidance counselors, et cetera, to see where they're at in that sense? Do they feel supported? I know you definitely have an open door policy, as I've heard of it, but how is that changing, or has it changed?
I think, we have a standing call with the leaders of the teachers union who have placed, school safety in general as one of the agenda items that they want to discuss. Also, we did have an open meeting for all teachers after we had the firearms incident at the high school. I believe it was 3 weeks ago. We hosted any teacher or any staff member who wanted to come talk to us in the upper CAF. We had Sergeant Carballo, Mr. Carballo, the head of school, Mr. Finn, Mr. Markins, our communications director, Ms. Hernandez, our chief of ops, and Mr. Hernandez, our school safety director. All the high school principals were there as well. I believe probably had about 65, 70 teachers, something like that. They had many questions about, 4 years ago, we did a couple-hour lockdown when there was a general threat. In this case, how come you didn't lock the school down? The teachers also asked how they could help changing maybe their duties from hallway duty to maybe monitoring doors, outside doors, things like that. I think we were up there for about 45 minutes, just generally discussing, how they felt in general, and then making sure that if they did have input on things that you talked about, Mr. Carballo, the head of school, has monthly listening sessions where folks can just drop in and talk about anything they want to talk about. As far as a survey, I don't think we've done a survey yet, but it might be something that might make sense for the union to distribute to the members and the other unions as well, paras, custodians, other folks, so they can give us their input on school safety and just how they feel in general.
That was actually my follow-up question. I was going to ask if these sessions, these conversations are open not just to the teachers, but we have employees that are administrative support, et cetera, that do deal with challenging circumstances when they come up. So I'm glad.
Yeah, no, the meeting we had definitely did have folks who are clerks, paras, teachers, of course, special education teachers, ESL teachers. I think even a few of the athletic coaches came up as well. So.
Councilors, any question? Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes, I want to know how many safety officers we have in general. So I see we have 12 right now.
Yeah, we have 12 positions, and those are specifically for the high school. David will answer the general safety issue.
So we have a total of 32 actively working with the district now. We're still looking to hire a few more. Since we last met, we've had couple of postings out there, so we're getting a nice response through Indeed and other websites. So we are getting a good pool of candidates trying to apply for the job.
And we are having a hiring fair on Saturday.
The first, April 1st.
And we're also having a district hiring fair on the 1st for all of our positions as well.
Can you, so Brendan, can you provide that information on the mic so people that are listening might be able to take advantage of it?
Absolutely, yes. On our website and in social media, you'll be able to see that we are holding a district hiring fair, 2 locations on Saturday, South Lawrence East Complex and also at Lawrence High School. Pre-K to 8 folks, teachers, support staff can go to South Lawrence East Complex. High school folks, secondary folks, just general district positions at Lawrence High School. So, you know, we will repost that so that everybody can see and come see us if they're interested in any type of positions that we have open.
Councilor Reyes?
No, I agree. When I was the principal at the Arlington School, we always had 2 full-time safety officers with us at the Arlington. I know it always made the students feel safer. I always felt better that we had folks who had a direct line to both our SRO unit and the fire department and Lawrence Police in general. So I would definitely agree that safety officers are critical just to general operations, and they made my life a lot easier when I was the principal at the Arlington Middle School.
Councilor Rosario?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here, Mr. Rodriguez, and everyone that is out there. It's great that you're going to have a job fair. Great. What's the plan behind that after we hired, or what you hire, what you need? What is the retention plan, and why do you think it has taken so long for us to have enough security, safety officers in school, and why are we now retaining the safety officers that we have?
Specifically, you know, safety, I think, would probably be the same issue that I think all of us are having with hiring in general. I think, as you know, I was at the high school. I was the 10th grade principal for the first half of the year last year, and I myself taught math for the first 6 weeks of the school year. It's very tough to find folks who are qualified for the position, whether that's safety officer or teacher. Also, salary levels, and I know that we've gone through salary negotiations and several contracts. Several unions have come to agreement to increase salaries. I think paying more for all the positions across the district is very important for retention. You know, if folks can get paid a lot more 10 miles away doing the same job, you know, you know, we hate to lose folks who are qualified, whether it's a safety officer, a secretary, a principal, or a teacher. So I think we need to be more competitive on salaries. You know, I always thought, you know, when we were working with teachers doing professional development, with them was always key to help them get better at their craft, whether it was on how to teach math or whether it was on how to, you know, develop relationships with students. So I would say, whether it's safety officer or teacher or anything else, you know, working with those staff members on professional development to help them get better at their craft. Also, you know, just in my general experience working with safety officers over the last 18 years, you know, some folks come and stay with us, which is terrific. You know, other folks come to us as young people, 20, 21, out of the military, or they're looking to get onto the police force or civil service. They work with us for a few years and then transition to the fire. Many of our police officers are former safety officers, which is great. It's hard for us to lose them, but we love to see them in the city. But I think that to your answer, just in general, about general retention and finding people in the first place, I think we have to try to make sure that our compensation packages are as attractive as they can be, without, you know, putting limits on other areas where we need to spend money, but also, you know, making sure that we're trying to train our folks and make sure, kind of like what Councilor Infante said as well, that, you know, if they do see issues, whether they're a safety officer and they want to ask questions about how we do something, or a teacher, that we make sure that we hear what their concerns are so that they don't get frustrated and look for another job.
Through you once again. So, in this job fair, so compensation, it's okay? I mean, has it changed? How are you going to attract them if salary is an issue?
Yeah, I think that's one thing that we're looking at as a district, Councilor Rosario, about how we do compensate our folks. You know, if we are able to give somebody a signing bonus, or something that we offered last year were kind of recruitment bonuses. If, for example, a teacher was able to tell one of their friends who was an educator, say, hey, there's an opening at the Weatherby School to teach English. and that person joined us, we were able to give the person who found the teacher a recruitment bonus. You know, those are little things that I think that we can do that don't have a huge impact, but help with finding folks. I think general overall, making it, you know, of course, we want people to work in Lawrence just for that, but we also need to make sure that folks who are finding people to work in Lawrence, you know, they get a little bit more, and also offering retention bonuses maybe to folks who sign on and stay with us.
I seen people that have great salaries, but they're not treated equal as others. They're not treated well. They feel, right now, nowadays, the work environment is kind of different than what it used to be, and people feel training, they don't get the opportunity to grow, none of that. What is the difference? Again, if I'm a safety officer and I'm getting what I need and I'm getting the opportunity that I need, I'm not gonna go to the police department, unless I like it, or that's my option. But I work in an environment that if my job, my boss is not there, I feel sometimes sad, I mean, because of treatment. So how are we doing to make these people safe and comfortable in the work environment?
Yeah, I think, you know, and of course, I think this has been done in the past. I think what we're trying to do is continue our school visits to make sure that folks see us around the district. You know, the Gilmet School asked us to come by this morning and just do a check-in on transportation for them, seeing the private transportation come in, make sure that's going in an orderly fashion, that folks are obeying the laws of the road, and that they don't have too many young folks, that they're not overloaded. So, you know, myself, a couple other folks, one of the school resource officers went over, you know, checked in with Officer Flete out front. So I think we're trying to do that to make sure folks see that we're visible, but then at the same time, make sure we listen to them if there are issues. And again, like you said, people want to be able to see other people, talk to them, and feel supported, and feel like they're doing a good job, to make sure that they stay with us. I think, you know, like you said, the work conditions have changed dramatically over the last 3 years. Oftentimes, you know, sometimes if I'm on a call with someone, folks who might be on the call might be working from home, things like that. Obviously, we have positions that you can't, you know, our paras, our clerks, our CAF workers, our safety officers, our bus drivers, they can't work from home, right? So I think that's something else that makes it a little bit more difficult, you know, again, in the hiring process when we're working on that.
One last question through you. Do you, at the Lawrence LPS, Lawrence Public School, do you guys reevaluate your managers or your group leaders, or like, I'm working the City of Lowell, and they do it every single year, and they evaluate you. If you're losing employees, you're not doing it correctly. So we're gonna give you a chance to try to rehire and keep the same employees that you have, and we're gonna give you the resources. Might be different here. But do we evaluate? Because I'm seeing you guys are struggling to keep safety officers for years. So to me, I will reevaluate that and say what's going on. Not just the salary, not just the work environment. It's something in some position, it's something in some departments that doesn't click, and we need to shift it. Why don't we do that, or why haven't we do that to shift things around to see what is not happening in that department?
No, definitely, I think, you know, evaluation is a key part of any program, school, department, or company. I think all of our folks get evaluated at any level. Again, when I was the principal of 10th grade, I was required to complete evaluations for all my teachers. Past year, when I was overseeing the Family Resource Center, also my job to evaluate the program directors, the enrollment specialists, things like that. You know, now as in my role as superintendent, it will be my job to submit evaluations for the deputy superintendent, assistant superintendents, and it will be the assistant superintendent's responsibility to submit evaluations for the folks who work under them. But I think, supervision and evaluation is key to any, like I said, any program, department, or company to make sure that everybody's moving in the same direction.
Councilors, Councilor Infante.
Thank you, Chair. Superintendent, can you describe, looking at school culture specialist 13 across the campus for positive school culture, can you describe what that entails a little bit?
Sure. I think every year we've tried to, I think, add more. Again, these are just, mostly young folks, bilingual, bicultural folks. Many grew up in the community who have a college degree, may not want to be a teacher, but they want to work in a school, may not want to be a guidance counselor. So I think at this point, you know, they function in a bunch of ways. You know, hall monitor, you know, a transition supervision when kids are coming into the building, kids are going to lunch, going back and forth. Also, you know, we have 13 of them now, so in the lower school anyways, we almost have one per floor. In each floor, the lower school in 9th and 10th grade, we have about 150 students. So they kind of oversee their floor, like in the G building, 3rd floor, they'll have a culture specialist who'll be in charge of make sure the bathrooms are open, make sure that there aren't students crowding the bathrooms, make sure there's no one, you know, looking to start a fight, make sure there's no one going into those bathrooms vaping, but also we'll assist those teachers by making phone calls home if there are, you know, chronic absences and their teachers might be concerned that they haven't seen a student in a couple days. Also, they work with Mr. Gunnell, the manager of restorative practices, on, you know, how to conduct mediations and build relationships between students who have had conflicts before. You know, it's been a great way for us to have staff that allows the principals to go into classrooms and evaluate instruction while still not having to worry about the learning environment of the building.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Superintendent, you did touch upon two of my follow-up questions. One being how many, specifically, how many of the 13 are from the community? As we know, when we hire within the community, when we hire people that look like our students, they relate more to our students, their situations at home, and et cetera. But you did mention that we have people within the 13 that are from our community. A second thing that you mentioned, that they help with the pressures that the guidance department may experience, and that's another concern that I've had throughout the years. I've consistently heard the pressures that guidance counselors have, specifically at Lawrence High, the workload, the trying to get to know the students. I don't know the history. I don't know if we had more before or that, but what else are we doing to help our guidance department give better services to our students?
Yeah, I think, you know, that's one of the main functions of the school culture specialist, so that the guidance counselors don't have to, you know, do the, you know, an hour mediation. Sometimes the mediations take a long time. We've also been able to add more guidance counselors and the school social workers as well, you know, through the Student Opportunities Act, which has been a great resource to Lawrence in general and many other communities around the state. So, you know, really allows our guidance counselors to focus on academics, you know, who should be going to early college, who's a good fit for a GLTS after dark, you know, who is a student who maybe did their freshman year in the 9th grade academy, but maybe wants to transfer to Abbott Lawrence. So this allows our guidance counselors to do more of the academic pieces. And then, of course, we also have the Gear Up staff who also work with the sophomores, juniors, and seniors on FAFSA, financial aid, college matches, and things like that. So, you know, Gear Up really works with all of our students on college matches and affordability. Our guidance counselors are able to look at MCAS scores, you know, who wants to be in an AP physics class, who's a student who may need a biology reinforcement class because they have to take a biology retest. So, you know, the school culture specialists do a lot of the hallway supervision mediations. Gear Up works with college affordability and college matches, which allows the guidance counselors to do their thing as far as scheduling and making sure kids have enough credits and stay on track for graduation.
One more through you, Chair. Thank you, Superintendent. I'm actually, Chair, now curious to hear from our resource officer. I would like to know how our officers are interacting with our students. Is it more positive? Now, obviously outside of altercations or challenging situations, but tell us more about that relationship and environment through your perspective.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Thomas Caraballo. I am the sergeant in charge of our school resource officers. Before I was the supervisor, I was the resource officer since 2011. When I got promoted, I was moved out and recently returned to the role of supervisor. So I'm very passionate. I'm glad you asked how we are dealing with our kids. Our SROs are unique. I tell everyone, and I'm very passionate about this, we're a unique unit in the police department. When I go see the chief, I don't go see the chief because I want to give him numbers. If I go see the chief and I tell him we have 0 numbers, then we're being successful. Our SROs, and I just marked down a few things about them just because I think they do a great job. First, I'll say they're nationally recognized for things that they've done recently within our school system. But they're not just police officers, they're educators. They don't just patrol the halls, they work in classrooms, they teach. They get a chance to spend time with those kids, teaching them about law enforcement, doing drug and alcohol awareness, which I think is great. They've gone so far as to, they're writing college recommendations for our students. That's the kind of relationships they've built with our students, especially at the high school. We know we have a large population of students at the high school, but it's amazing, and I see it on a daily basis. They know these kids by first names. And I think that's impressive, to be able to meet all those students on a first name basis. That's something. Like the superintendent said, we only have 4 SROs. Kind of tough for a school district that has 15,000 students, but they do a really, really good job. You know, they're out there in all the schools. You know, we got our comfort dog. We take our comfort dog around to every middle school that we can. They love them there. We're getting into all the schools, but just to continue about our SROs, they're mentors. They all have great communication skills. They wouldn't be in the position they're in if they didn't. You know, I've seen them sit down with students in their office and just talk to them about life, things that are going on with them at home, which I think is important, because we are certainly not in the schools to make arrests. That's not what the school resource program is about. I just wouldn't prescribe to that. I know some people do, but I don't. I'm a product of LPS. You said something earlier that it hits me deep in the heart. When I was a kid in LPS, police officers didn't look like me. So I take pride in being in the schools and showing kids that, not that being a police officer is great, it is to me, it's all I've ever wanted to be, but when I was in school, police officers didn't look like me, so I didn't know if I had a chance to do that. And now, our police officers reflect the community. We run a junior police academy every year that is just taking off. The kids love it. We're getting questions on it every day. I'm hoping that we can fulfill the need for all the kids who want to go to it. It might be tough. But like I said, we're not just law enforcement officers. Are we ready to deal with and confront violent or disruptive behaviors? Absolutely. But I don't believe that's what the program is about.
Thank you.
Thank you, councilors. I have a few questions in regard to the safety. So, when it comes to the school safety officer, there is a few things that are extremely important, and something that I truly believe that we should be focused on is that the proactive approach of the school safety officers, getting to know the students and make sure that identify potential issues when it comes to perhaps that presence of somebody on that family, they can talk about it in a confident way and help those students. I'm definitely proud of the school safety officer that we have in some of the schools that I represent, because they do that. Those kids respect that officer at the Gilmet, because it is an approach that it is recommended to every school. They get to talk, they get to understand the issues and find a solution for it. So with that said, I would like to touch base on the trainings and resources that the school safety officers have available to be able to do a good job on their day-to-day operation.
I think Director Hernandez would be a little bit better to answer that question.
Of course.
Thank you, through you. You're excited. Thank you for what you're doing. And once again, congratulations. You were here last Tuesday. We were recognizing you guys for everything you do.
Thank you very much.
One thing I liked about the SROs, and one thing I like that you just said, it's only 4 of you. So I haven't heard you crying. I know you need people, and I know you need more resources probably. But how can you get it done with 4 officers? And 2 dogs, is it?
One dog.
One dog. How can you get it done? And again, Sergeant, I don't, every posting that you guys do, it's something fun, it's something happy, it's something you do with the students, but I don't hear you crying, I'm short staff, I'm short staff, I'm short staff, and I know you are.
It's certainly not easy, Counselor, as you know. It's what I love, more staff. Now that you open the door for me, yes, sir. I tell the superintendent we have conversations all the time. I would love to build a great safety network of police officers, but we're not there yet. We just have to do our jobs. We have to continue pushing forward. The mission continues. Whether we have 4 guys or 20 guys, the mission continues. Our cities and our kids are number 1. So it wouldn't be fair to us to be slacking or complaining. We just gotta work. I've got SROs who call me at 11 o'clock at night. The school day ends at 2:50, and they're getting calls from principals and with concerns, and at that time, we start working. We start working. We're gonna continue to do what we can with what we have, but we certainly will not, like you say, cry about the help. We're gonna do the best we can.
Thank you. And we definitely would like to, the interaction of the 3 of you, because I think it's extremely important, the combination of all your opinions about it.
So your question was, what kind of training do safety officers receive?
Yeah, the training resource that we have in the Lawrence Public School to ensure that the jobs that the public safety officers do, they do it with effective.
Correct. So all safety officers are trained in CPI. We're currently transitioning over to safety care. CPI is basically crisis prevention intervention. Basically teaches you to de-escalate situations. So you see somebody arguing, you try to separate the two. You try to come down to the level and understand what got them so upset whenever possible. However, most of the times when we're called, it's too late. The fight already started. Now we got to separate and de-escalate. Our goal is to prevent every incident from happening if we can. If not, we manage the situation as it is. They're also trained in first aid, CPR, and AED. Those are the basic training. Others, depending what school you're in, you're able to join the other schools that have different type of training, counseling, and so on and so on. Those are for the ones that want to be a part of it. But the mandatory training is that one, the crisis prevention intervention.
So from the commander, the unit commander officer's point of view, what is it that you guys might have available to be able to share with the safety officers to help to first understand the situation and then proceed?
So physically, it's tough because police officers are trained under defensive tactics. We certainly do not want safety officers trained in defensive tactics. But he did mention something that is very important, and that's de-escalation. It's basically just being able to talk to kids. And I see it on a daily basis, SROs and safety officers de-escalating, and they work well off of each other. I brag, it's been a great collaboration these last 2 years between the LPS and the LPD.
Great. So last year when we were here, any follow-up on that? Last year when we were here, we have a meeting with everybody except the superintendent, so thank you for coming, for sure. And we were talking about different approach that the Lawrence Public School were taking in terms of the safety issues that we were facing at that point. So we were all over the place with different fights all the time, every second, different situations, and they were published on social media. I know that based on that, we have a different type of approach for the kids to deal with the students. And I know that part of those resources were having different locations to bring the students, to talk to them, and other type of resources that were not available before. So can you provide us with an update as of how we're dealing with that situation district-wise or at the high school?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, specifically at the high school, we have, the restoration room, which is a, big area. where students can sit down, talk to each other, you know, even prior to any type of altercation happening. If they're upset at each other, they can have a school culture specialist, school social worker sit down, walk them through their disagreement. Even the folks from UTEC are heavily involved with some of the kids who might be struggling more than others. Also, trying to find ways, you know, for students to be able to do things together to have fun. For example, I think today at the high school they had a, you know, kind of a basketball game between a couple of groups who have been having conflict, you know, under the supervision of, you know, the school administrators, school culture specialists, manager restorative practice, just so that they could have fun as a bunch of 15 and 16-year-olds. And, you know, they had to be prepped, saying we're going to do this, it's going to be fun. But I think a lot of that work is being done in many areas in the district. Also in the packet that I gave you, just some of the K-8 curriculum that we use, for example, zones of regulation, where, you know, you might be a third grader at the Arlington School, and your teachers are teaching you skills on what to do when you get frustrated. How can kids self-identify when they get frustrated so that they know that, oh, I need to go talk to my preferred staff member or my guidance counselor now, you know, prior to having an outburst and things like that. So I think those things are going on from preschool all the way to the high school.
All right, now that you mentioned the basketball court in the park, I would like to bring this topic up because, I mean, I know that at some point, a few years ago, there was a pointing finger situation between different departments, including the Lawrence Public Schools, the police department, the city, the council, school committee, everybody was pointing finger around. So, and I know that, you know, the problems still persist to a point that the previous meeting we had, there was a number thrown out that I quite don't remember, but it's a significant amount of students that are just playing on the basketball court that everybody assumed that they cut in classes and stuff like that. So how we can develop perhaps an approach, different approach to be able to deal with this situation, to ensure that we minimize the amount of students that may be cutting classes, we don't know.
No, I mean, we know, we don't have to surmise that. We know that attendance is a major issue in the schools right now. We're not unique in that, but just general attendance for the district is below 90%, whereas maybe 4 or 5 years ago it was 92, 93%. We know at the high school there's about 1,100 students who have missed more than 10% of the school year so far. So at the high school level, we know that there's more than 1,100 students who are categorized as chronically absent by the state, and that just means that they've missed 10% or more of the school days at this point in the year. Again, it's not a new issue, but we know it's an issue. I think the way we combat that is trying to offer courses, trying to offer programs that make them want to be in school. Also, there's some supervision pieces that we can do in that as well. I think, you know, we've had some discussions recently. I mean, Sergeant Carballo and I have been talking for years about the high school specifically, you know, trying to, you know, make it more of a closed campus, make it harder for students to walk off campus, make it harder for students to walk back in if they want to walk off campus and get a cup of coffee. You know, that's not criminal. I don't think that they're bad students for doing that, but it hurts their attendance, which is not good for them academically. So we've had all kinds of just general discussions about safety in general. You know, some of the things that we've talked about, directly referring to what Councilor Del Rosario said about, you know, the amount of SROs. Obviously, having 5 is terrific, where a couple of years ago we had 3, but, you know, we've been in conversations with the police department and also with the mayor's office about how we can increase that to at least maybe 1 or 2 more officers. Obviously, the school department would have some part in funding those positions as well. Again, I think that would be great for the school department and for the community in general. We've talked about, you know, just generally hardening school facilities. You know, how do we make the main entrances of all our buildings tougher to get into? You know, bullet resistance glass at our main entrances. Also, you know, maybe for the areas that serve high school students, speaking with the school leadership teams, which include teachers, administrators, parents, and students, you know, how would they feel about some type of metal detecting or weapon detecting technology at the main entrances? Again, we'd certainly be open to talking more about that. We'd want to definitely get input from the parents and students on how they feel. We definitely don't want to make it look like you're going into some type of, lockup facility, but also we want to make sure that places are safe for our kids, for our staff members, and for our families when they're visiting the schools. So I think, but to get back to the original point on attendance, we know that that's an issue. Again, working with safety, the folks at the high school and our partners at the police department, I'm sure that there's a way that we can periodically sweep those areas, whether it's the restaurants on 114 or now that it's warm out, the basketball courts. Even some students go all the way to the South Commons to play basketball. I think, you'll see some young folks down there, I think. Finding a way to work with the community on making sure that all of our high school students are back in uniform would help us identify which students really should be in school and which students may be an adult already and are just out playing basketball. But, I would certainly would want to come back to this committee and talk more about that and see how we could work together with, community groups, faith-based groups on, again, stressing the importance of attendance and being in school for all our kids, because we know it's a problem. We know it's a problem.
So, and this question will be for the police officer. I know that you guys are in the school, so you guys may not be aware of how many students we have at the basketball court, either there or at the South Common, but just in general, to the deputy chief, this question will be more like to him, if you can come over. Like, when a kid is in the street and a police officer passed by, and we know that under 16 have them in the school, what is the approach of the police department to talk to that kid in terms of, what are you doing here? That's a common question, a common sense question, right? Why are you not in the school?
So, Chief,
because you're probably there inside, right?
I apologize. I deal with it all the time. So yes, we do know that we have students out at the basketball courts, and we're in a tough position because we don't have truancy powers. So all we can do.
Have what?
Truancy powers. So we can't force kids. It's against the law for us to force a kid to go to school. We could respond to homes. We get calls all the time. My 16-year-old student doesn't want to go to school. And all we can do is go there and try to have conversations with these students. Unfortunately, we cannot force them, but we are having those conversations. My guys go through the parks all the time. I'll pass by the parks. It's such a tough situation where we can't force them to go to school. They're not really causing trouble. They're not doing anything in the park but playing ball. So we are definitely caught in the middle of that situation.
There's a point of information, Councilor.
They're not. So what happened in the movie theater?
What was that?
What happened in the movie theater?
The movie theater was a problem. We were dealing, and
Just expand on that.
yeah, we were dealing with the owner of the movie theater. So the movie theater, they didn't do a great job of closing that movie theater up. Right, absolutely. But I will say, and again, I was once a kid. You give me a playground, I'm gonna check it out. So it wasn't the kids who damaged the movie theater to get in there. I think that was done by older people at night getting in there. Now, did we have to deal with kids going in there? Yeah, we did. I didn't want to arrest kids for being curious. We spoke with the owners of the property on multiple occasions. I can tell you, before the end of the year, he assured me that movie theater would be taken down January 2nd. That movie theater is still there.
Sure.
We thankful. I thank God every morning that I wake up and I see the news. Kids smoke.
Yeah.
Kid drinks. They could have created a fire there.
Yes.
And right now, officer, excuse, and we went to school together. Me and you, Odanis, we went to school together. I remember those years. But it was no safety officer in school. It was only one police officer. It was all under control.
You're aging us, Counselor.
Yeah, no, I understand. Well, we were there.
You're right.
Okay? But now we have kids going out of the school from every single door in the high school. No control. You just said we cannot do nothing to bring them back. But can we prevent them to go out?
So we certainly try
And
to.
also, can we prevent an emergency? Nothing happened in the movie theater, but they couldn't sit there themselves, start smoking, fire.
Agree.
We are lucky, Lawrence, and nothing had happens to these kids.
I agree. We're very blessed. I will say, I think the safety department does a great job with trying to keep kids in school. We do have to remember, I believe there's 345 doors at the high school, so it's almost impossible to man every single one of, it is impossible to man every single one of those. Kids are gonna be kids. I was in contact with the owner of the movie theater. We worked with our business liaison to make sure that we got the place buttoned up the right way, and I believe now there is a permanent fire watch there every day around the clock until that facility is no longer there.
That's another question. Through you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Superintendent, what would happen if we move the budget from safety officers at the Lawrence High School and put it, if it's possible, and put it at the police station, at the police department, and they can provide us with that budget more SROs? If it would be possible, let's think, let's move that money that is there, sitting there for the safety officers, and let's get more SROs. Let's talk to the police and see who actually can move that budget. Have you thought of that? Have you had that conversation?
Yeah, I think like I just said, I think, you know, we would like to amplify, you know, the number of folks on the SRO unit if we can, in a way that's responsible, and make sure that we don't handicap, you know, future budgets down the line for the next superintendent. Because we certainly don't, certainly don't want to put the next superintendent in a position where he has to cut positions. But like I said, you know, we've been in discussions with the police department and the mayor's office to see if we can find more funding, you know, to add additional SROs. But I would absolutely not want to give up anything from the safety department to do that. I think we can do both, because I think, you know, kind of like Sergeant Carballo said, they have kind of different roles, and, you know, they both kind of excel in different ways.
But to me, as I see in it, it would work like the auxiliary police. I mean, I'm not telling you that move that budget and cancel the safety officer, but the police department will be empowered of managing that budget and actually maybe train the security officers of the police at the school, and maybe get some typical result that the community is looking for.
Oh yeah, I think, you know, I've worked with Sergeant Carballo for 12 years now, and, you know, before him, I've also worked with Officer Cody, and I believe he's a lieutenant now, Lieutenant Rossi, and Detective Moynihan. I'm going way back to the Arlington School days. You know, Officer Schiavone was my neighborhood police officer back then. We worked closely with all of them, even the police officers who weren't part of the SRO unit. So I think collaboration is key between us, fire, safety, you know, folks here at City Hall, to make sure that we're using the money that we have in a way that it's going to benefit the community. You know, like Sergeant Carballo said, you know, oftentimes there are different feelings on having police officers in school, but as you mentioned, you know, every interaction that you see with one of our SROs and students, whether it's at an open gym or, you know, at an athletics event or things like that, the interaction is positive. You know, you can see the relationships that have been developed. That's the way that, you know, I would love to see it continue. I certainly wouldn't be as enthusiastic about it if I didn't see it in that way as well. So, like I said, I think, you know, we in the school department definitely want more conversations just about safety in general, you know, how we can expand the SRO unit if possible, if it's, you know, financially feasible and financially responsible in a long-term way that will benefit students and make sure that the families feel safe about sending their kids to school. You know, there was another incident today, another school shooting, I believe in Nashville today. I believe there were 6 people killed. And it's horrible that we have to feel this way, but it's just a reality. So absolutely, anything related to school safety has always been high on my agenda. And like I said, I'd be glad to come back and talk more with all of you and the community in general, just about how we make our schools safer for everyone.
Just a follow-up on that very quick. Do we have an updated plan in terms of any type of shooting happening in our Lawrence Public Schools, based on the situations that happen throughout the country? Because I know we have a plan, but I mean, are we being updating those?
Yes, we do.
We don't want to know the plan. You guys know the plan.
Yeah, we actually sat together a few weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, yeah.
We're constantly looking to follow best practices. We don't take it lightly. At the high school, we meet once a week to make sure that we're coming up with the best for our kids. So it's certainly, we're not trying to stay stagnant with that.
Councilor Reyes?
I want to know how many schools have a children protocol right now to, children protocol to lockdown.
Yeah, sure. All of our schools have crisis plans that they work on each summer to update. You know, the one at the high school, we would always update, working with Mr. Finn, Mr. Hernandez, and obviously with the SROs, and also with the fire department, primary exits, secondary exits, you know, when we're gonna do school drills, how we communicate to the students before we do the drills, to make sure that students understand that it's a drill, and that they don't, you know, panic when they see, you know, doors being closed, things like that. Those things are ongoing, not just at the high school, but all of our schools. All of our schools have a crisis plan. All of our schools do regular drills, whether it's a fire drill or an emergency drill where, you know, they block their normal exit and they have to use their secondary exit to get out of the school, and also students have to know, you know, where the primary area and where the secondary area, for example, the high school, the primary location for evacuation is the softball fields. The secondary area for evacuation is the South Lawrence East. For the South Lawrence East, it's kind of in reverse, right? They have their fields as the primary, and then they come to the high school as a secondary. So all of our schools, you know, do have crisis drills. As Sergeant Caraballo said a couple weeks ago, Chief, I think, Lieutenant and Sergeant Caraballo, we went over just some general emergency planning. Obviously, we don't want to be too public about the response plans that we have, but, you know, that's something that we're going to continue to do to make sure that, you know, if something does happen, that folks who need to be there are going to be there right away and know the layout of the school, and know how to navigate the different floors of the school. So if something is happening, they can deal with it quickly. Yeah, we have crisis plans. You know, the crisis plans will look a little bit different for each school. Obviously, the crisis plan for the tar box with 270 students and smaller building is going to look a lot different than the crisis plan for the Partham complex that has like 1,300 students, which is going to be a lot different from the high school, which has 2,800 students. But, you know, each school has a crisis plan on what they do, who responds, and how they react for fire drill, or if they have to lock the school down, you know, how they lock it down, how kids are taken, where they sit in the classroom during a lockdown, all those things.
Councilor Rosati?
Mr. Finn, can I ask? Thank you. Let's see with some participation. You're sitting there like. Mr. Finn, and the last meeting that you guys have on March 17, where you put it together, safety overview update, what did you come up with? What was the, you know, what was the overall in that meeting?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Say, you had a meeting on March 17. It says presenter, Tim Flynn, right? Safety overview updates. I got some concerns from teachers, all kinds of stuff here. Wondering why, was it you that?
I don't know about March 17th, did I?
Well, the last meeting, let's say I got the date wrong.
Okay.
And that was that meeting. What was, I mean, safety overview updates, what kind of updates did we got, or what kind of updates you guys talked about?
So I think part of our safety protocols, you know, that we practice with the students and the staff, we just talked about whether it's a shelter in place, it's a lockdown, it's evacuation. Those protocols are available for all of our staff. We practice those with all of our students. Since we had that intruder with the firearm, right, we talked about with our staff, we went over their questions. I think one of the questions they had was, when does a lockdown get called and how does it happen? We talked about how, with Sergeant Caraballo, that we work with the Lawrence Police Department when it comes to that. I think sometimes people have to, I think they felt like maybe it came from our office, and that's what I wanted to make sure they understood it did not. We go to the professionals right here. That's why they're here tonight.
So all the concerns are here, and then you guys put it all together. When it comes to, I see some teachers asking what would happen if Dave H. is not in the building. So I'm wondering if Dave H., it's Mr. Hernandez, and what was the outcome after that question? Because it's reading in here, and he's a safety, I mean, I know he have to be moving from school to school.
He's district, but he is at the high school quite a bit. We appreciate that. He's a valuable asset to us. I think that, I think all of our safety officers, a lot of the conversation we had tonight shows you how that makes staff feel when they see our safety officers in the hallways and at the doors. Some of the surveys that we've had with our staff and our students since last fall has been very positive because of that. So I think working with Mr. Hernandez, helping us tighten up our plan, we do meet, Sergeant Caraballo, myself, and David, at least weekly to go over different things. And I think it's ongoing. I think that's the part that we say. And when I meet with families, we say the same thing. We know how important it is for your child to leave your house in the morning and return that night. We are there to educate, but we know safety is number one. So I think as a community, that's why we're here tonight. We understand that, and we want to work together to make sure we can be better every day.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Finn, I believe this is the first time I'm at least ever seeing you. Can you just tell us what your role is within OPS?
So I'm the assistant head of school at Lawrence High School. So I work quite a bit with logistics. I guess I'd like to say I'm behind the scenes quite a bit. I'm happy to do that. I'm in charge of the crisis team. Anything that has to do with staff or students outside of the classrooms, if there's an injury, if there's an incident, things like that, that's under my purview. My favorite, the buses, right? I'm in charge of all the buses, so I am happy to do whatever is asked, really. So I've done a few different jobs there, but happy to do it right now.
That's my final comment in regards to this. Well, first, I definitely understand the bus situation. I used to work at Greater Lawrence Tech and was a school committee member there, so I remember that being crazy. But aside from that, the whole safety team, thank you. I'm a huge supporter of SROs. I saw firsthand, like I said, at GLTS, how beneficial that is. I was part of a drill prior to the school year starting when I was an employee there. So I definitely learned a lot. And I know, I always say people should work at a school or school system before they service the community publicly, because you learn a lot. So thank you for everything that you do. I know more challenges are coming, but we definitely, at least I appreciate that you guys are here showing face and answering our some tough questions. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilors. I have a few other questions. I mean, it's a lot of questions because this meeting was way overdue for over 2 years. So I want to get this information for myself and for parents up there that are concerned about the safety. Everywhere we go, safety first. If you work in safety first, OSHA, that's the first thing they promote. Everything you do is safety. So when it comes to different plans we have to deal with the safety on any type of situation, we have 3 things: chapter in place, evacuation, and lockdown. So for parents up there that probably don't know what those means, and they get a phone call from their students, their son, daughter, saying we are in lockdown situation. What those means, those 3, so they can be aware of what's going on, what to expect under those situations.
So I would say if we go into a shelter in place, it usually is because of a situation outside of the building. Could be in the neighborhood. We get a call or we talk with the police department, and they do not want anyone to leave the building or anyone to enter the building. So we'll stop traffic in the building. We'll ask teachers to lock their doors. Students will stay inside their classroom. If it is a lockdown, that could be because of something inside of the building. So we do ask all of our staff and our students to get away from the door, shut the lights off, go as far away from the window part of the door so you can't be seen if someone was coming down the hallway. Every teacher has an inside key. It's called a B3, and that locks their door from the inside so that someone cannot get in, so they can do that. Those are some things that we practice. We go over that with our staff. We go over that with our students. The evacuation would be a fire drill, any of that, where we'll exit the building. And then everyone, depending on where your classroom is, there is a route that you would take, with your staff, would make sure their class, all their students are out there in that spot, whether it's near the baseball and softball field or it's going towards the football field on the other side, so.
And in that situation, parents are responsible to pick up the kids, and if that's the situation.
So in those situations, we would actually block the road with school safety from people coming in, you know, and most times we would be able to return to the building. So we would communicate with with all of our families too about what happened, whether it be a Connect Ed call, an email, a text, so they have those, that information. Almost every time we've had a drill, not always, but any real situation, we followed up with an open parent meeting if they'd like to come in to speak about it.
And then we have, well, you went through both. You can have a combination of those two as well, right?
Absolutely.
So, like, let's say that we are in lockdown position or situation, and then we need to evacuate the building for any particular situation. So those two could be combined.
Right. And I think with school safety and with the Lawrence Police Department, that's who we're always in contact with, you know, to make sure those decisions are made together.
So when it comes to communications, how you guys deal with the situation? Who is going to be the phone call? Who is going to be the contact person to make sure that every staff member know what's going on and communicating with the police department? I'm assuming that is a logistic in terms of emergency management and stuff like that.
So it would be me, I'd be the liaison with the SROs from that point. We'd obviously contact the superintendent's office to say that there's a situation, that we're working with it. Most times superintendent will come down or send someone from his office down. But we have an intercom system that we can give it directions throughout the campus, so we can do that. So we try our best to make sure everyone understands what's going on, you know, and I think we've gone to simple language when there is something going on. So instead of saying a color or something like that, we actually will say what is going on so everybody understands.
Evacuation, run away. There is any questions in regard to the safety portion of the conversation? Yeah, I have one more about the safety situation that we've been dealing with at the district level, and that happened because of a budget change, and those are the cross guards. Cross guard issues. It's been we've been dealing with the situation, a different approach, and I don't believe it's been solved. We get away. I mean, the city or the police department now doesn't have the budget under them. The school department have the budget, $98,000, I believe it is. But we have issues with that. How are we going to be taking care of that situation? Currently, we don't have any. Perhaps I can give you a good example. I don't know if we have solved the cross guard situation of Haber Street, but we didn't have any before, like a few months ago. So how are we going to deal with that situation? Do we have to transfer that budget back to the police department, or are we be able to deal with it at the district level?
So I don't believe it's a budget issue. I believe it's more of a responsibility in finding the correct candidate for the position. The weather is a challenge for a lot of our former crossing guards as they're getting older in age, and you know it takes a toll on their bodies. Also, the pay is not that great. According to the budget that we received, it was $20 an hour, which breaks down to a half hour in the morning, half hour in the afternoon. Some schools have asked that the crossing guard spends more time there for an hour, so we've been able to up that as well. One of the things that we did in the school also is we offered as a extra duty for some of the staff member, whether you're a teacher, a CAF worker, support staff, if you want to take on the responsibilities, we'll give you a stipend and we'll pay you for that as well. So that has worked in most of the schools, but we still have a small deficit of about 6 more crossing guards that we could use.
Essentially, I'm going to disagree a little bit in terms of the budget issue, because it was a problem with that when it comes to the budget before, because I mean, the elderlies were getting 1 hour worth of work, and they actually were working more because they have the passion, they have the charisma, they have the intention of doing a great job because they have kids when they were little, and they were kind of like paying back to the community by doing that type of work. And but we not hiring those, or we were not giving those stipends that we have available to the school workers. And the difference between the two programs, the different approach is that now we have the need of about 40 to 45 minutes worth of work to be able to cross off the kids from one point to another point, and before it was only 30 minutes, but they stay. And now, if you guys haven't increased it to an hour, like I think you just mentioned it,
Correct.
those positions were vacant after 30 minutes, because they need to, those workers, they need to go back to the regular duty.
So to answer your question, some of the former crossing guards that came back and joined us again, they've been given the opportunity to work an hour earlier or an hour in the afternoon. That gives them 2 hours a day, which is better than an hour a day. But some of them refused, which is okay. I understand why. I mean, they're physically tired. But those that are willing to, we offer it to them.
Well, we'll be in touch with some of those, because I mean, there were some of those people that they were just, you know, if somebody at the school level took the job, they would just call back and say, look, you know, what is your stop sign and your best?
If they're
That's
willing,
not even fair.
excuse me, if they're willing to come back, I'll definitely take them in right now. That's not a problem for me. In fact, I need about 6 openings right now that I have.
Some of them you need to understand that they were living close by, they would walk to the school, and now the position that might be available, not around.
I'm willing to
First
work
of all.
with them with that as well. So if I need to move someone else, I would do that.
All right, great, that's good to hear. So that was my last questions about a safety issue that we probably have. Councilor, there is any questions in regard to that?
Safety? Is it safety?
Safety?
Oh, mine's safety.
Safety, yeah. Councilor Reyes.
The staff is ready to implement a shutdown or lockdown when we have some kind of emergency, like we have in Race Academy. What
sorry,
kind of protocol you follow through this situation?
The same, it would be the same protocol. So all the schools have a crisis plan. That plan details who's responsible for what and when to take action and how to take action.
I'll make a question because our community has a lot of concern. What is the officer? What is the safety officer? What is the protocol you follow to maintain our youth safe?
I think Councilor Ray is asking, like, specifically like the incident that happened last week at Rise. So, you know, the safety officer, along with other staff members, was right there when that incident occurred. You know, obviously, the first job was to separate the students. Second job was for the safety officer to, they have the radios to contact both Lawrence, the police, and Mr. Hernandez. Obviously, in a situation like that, may not call for a lockdown because they knew who the students were. They were able to separate the students, get the students first aid who needed first aid. But I think, you know, as far as your question, as our safety officers, you know, trained in, what their role is during a lockdown, I would say absolutely. You know, some of them are assigned to doors, others of them are assigned to check hallways. So, you know, and that would be different, like safety officer, custodian, paraprofessional, everybody has a different role during a lockdown. And I think, you know, how it was handled last week was very efficient. Obviously, it was not a good incident. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're keeping violence out of our schools and weapons out of our schools, but I think everybody acted appropriately and quickly last week to make sure that the situation was brought under control very quickly.
We just want to recognize School Committee for District E, Pat Mariano, that is here tonight. Thank you for being here. She is also the chair of the LEE board. Thank you, Pat, for doing what you're doing.
Through you, Mr. President, Chair, Mr. Chair. I want to know how many students we have in Rice Academy?
I believe we have 82 students enrolled. I can get the exact number tonight, and I'll email you, but I think when I check 2 weeks, I run the attendance and enrollments every 2 weeks. I can actually put it up on my phone, but I believe we have 82 students enrolled.
And how many safety officers we have there?
There's one safety officer there. You're welcome.
Any questions in regard to safety? Okay. Councilor Rosario?
Thank you, through you. Let me just read you things that I get, and I hope that I wake up and I try to explain to people. I don't want to get involved because people don't understand that most of the excuses that we get is, oh, we report to the state. We have nothing to do with the city. But I would like to stop getting this email. It says, Counselor, The residents continue to have concerns regarding the safety and security of the public school, more specifically the high school and alternative school. No child should be feared going to school in the morning or feel uncertain over how safe their building or the classroom is. And no parents should have that feeling every morning of wondering of the safety of the children in our school. The silence of information, it's appropriate to calm the mess and ensure that the school is not seen as out of control, both for the parents and the students. With that said, I'm not going to continue because it's mentioned people, it mentioned name, and I don't want to get to that. At the end of the day, we need to reevaluate. The SRO program is working great, it's short staff, but we need to, it's been years that we're dealing with the safety and the safety officers concerned, and the safety shortage, and the salary, and the treatment that the safety officers get. And nothing has been done at Mr. Rodriguez, and I do apologize. Nothing has been done, and we keep dragging it throughout the years. And it's keep happening. And that raised a question to Mr. Hernandez. Mr. Hernandez, how long have you been the manager as a safety officer, and what have you implemented that you think that is working, and why it's so easy for a student to get in through your eyes and through your officers with firearms and also knives and stuff like that? How is so easy for them through your eyes, because it happened through your eyes. I say through your eyes because it's the whole team. What I work is my whole company. It's not just you, through your eyes. And also, what have you implemented throughout the years that you think is working, or what have you implemented that is not working that we're waiting to change?
Mr. Councilor De Rosario, as you know, I've invited you to come over to the high school multiple times to show you how we do our work. Due to the fact that it's a lot of information to give you in one short period of time, I can tell you what we've done, but I'd rather show you if you're willing to come in and accept my invitation as I extended last year. I think once you see it, it'll make more sense. I think it'll also help you and everyone else here to understand how it is that we're able to do a lot more with less.
What it is,
So
Mr. Hernandez?
just a point of
Please.
information there. I think that, having a meeting in the office is important, but I think that we're here because we were elected by different districts and the entire community, and we owe them those information so we can be transparent and clear of what we've been doing. So if you don't have the answer right now, we can definitely schedule another meeting for later on down the road, and we can specifically talk about that.
So one of my concerns is always revealing what we do, because then if you know how we protect our schools, then you'll be able to defeat our purposes. I'll give you an example. You have cameras in this building. If I come in with a hoodie and a mask, you won't know who I am. You'll know somebody came in, you know when they came in, and you know what I did, but you won't know who I am or how to prevent it from happening. This is what I'm saying. If you come into the school, we can give you a tour so you understand better how it is that we actually do our job that we do, and then you'll be able to go back and say, hey, I do understand, I did do this. It's kind of like our crisis plans. I don't want to expose our crisis plans. You know what I mean?
No, I mean,
but
of course,
I'm willing to show you personally if you're willing to take the time and come and see us.
Through you, and I appreciate the invite, but the times that I've been in the school, you're never there. And then you call me after I'm out of the school.
That was
So
one time,
So
sir.
I've been there several times. If they don't call you, that's fine, but I've been there several times, and I ask for you, and you're not there. And then I drive my school bus, and I see you on Arlington School or whatever the school is, and that's great, because you got to move around. That is fine, completely fine. But the time that I've been in school, I haven't scheduled anything, maybe because my work schedule doesn't allow me to schedule anything. But I've been into the school, and the time that I've been to school, you're not there. But nothing against that. Again, I believe that you should be moving around and making sure the guys are working everywhere they are. But again, what has been implemented that is working, what has been implemented that is not working, and why security officers that have been there feel that that's a hostile environment of work. And then that's why you can't retain safety officers, and you've been there for the longest, and every time we come here to a meeting, we hear the same excuses over and over. But it take you years to hire 2 safety officers, and they don't last a week. So it makes me wonder why. Nothing against you personally, it's made me wonder the whole department.
So I can tell you I lost 11 officers to the police department within the 2-year period. I cannot be upset
many
for
have
someone
you
trying to find something different. Most of the officers that join our department use this as a stepping stone to move up to become either police officer, correction officer, or any type of law enforcement job down the line. Those that choose to stay longer, which at this point, it's only a handful of them. Some have retired, which, you know, you understand after so many years, up to 25 years of service, it is only right for them to be able to enjoy their retirement. So after COVID is when everything started to change. And if you look back, you can see how long the officers stayed before that. And we're not the only ones having a hard time retaining officers as well. If you think about it, if you look at the whole nation, nobody wants to do this job.
Point of information, very quick. What is the salary for the officers? Starting salary?
Depending on their training, certifications, and background, it could be anywhere from $18 to $22 an hour, I believe.
So the max that they can get when they get hired, other than the signing bonus, if the district decide to do, is $22 an hour.
Correct.
So do you think that the issue, they walk inside with firearms and knives because they have a hoodie and we cannot ID who is in there with the cameras?
That's not the issue. There's many different reasons why they do that. Some are gang members, some are actually out in the community, some claim to be afraid for their lives, so they feel they need to be protected. But we don't have metal detectors at the moment. It's very difficult to tell who has a weapon and who doesn't.
Have you, as a safety office manager, have requested the administration for metal detectors?
Yes, I have,
How many times?
multiple times.
Why, what's the answer that they give you?
At the time, it was shut down. It said, well, we're not there yet. That's the answer that I received.
So just a continuation of the conversation that you guys have. So I've seen here that you have a security camera, $700,000 in cameras upgrade, district-wide. So tell me about that program, how that goes.
It's a state-of-the-art security system. The camera is able to tell you when someone walks into an area they're not supposed to. So all our exit doors at the high school have been programmed so that when someone walks by a door that they're not supposed to, it'll send an alert to myself, safety officers, and administrators where we can look at them instantly, see if the person's coming in or walking out, and if they have a purpose, if they belong in a building or not. That's how we're able to.
How you know that?
It's a motion detection system.
No, but I mean, how you know that's a student or somebody that came from New York?
We don't. We'll send somebody over because they're coming in through an unauthorized entry. So if that's your main door, everybody's expected to come in through this door. Somebody walks into the side door, the camera that's closest to that door would send an alert to us saying, hey, someone walked in this area. So then we're able to go back and look at the video real quick. You actually see it on your phone, your computer at the moment, and we're able to see that.
All right, so, and I don't know how the doors system might work at the school, but there is a way that you can lock every door in the school at one point?
So technically, all the doors are locked at all times. If you're a staff member, you can come in with your ID. There's a card reader outside. The issue that we're having is when you text your friend and say, hey, I'm at door 45, can you open the door for me? You come running down the stairs, you open the door, you just defeated the entire purpose of the cameras and the system that we have in place. So then we'll catch whoever opened the door and we catch who comes in, and we're able to alert the officers that's closest to that door and that location, along with an administrator that can go ahead and deal with that situation at the moment. If it's someone that doesn't belong to the school, we'll notify the SROs, and that person will either get summoned to court or get arrested for trespassing.
How proactive the officers are in terms of
Very proactive,
going over there to check on those?
very proactive.
So they're just not walking as slowly and go and see?
Oh, no, they see it on their phones, they see it on the computers. They're able to direct each other through the walkies and give each other directives. Say, someone with a blue jacket just walked into door D17, and so on and so on.
Any questions in regard to Councilor Infante?
Can Councilor raised 80 students at RISE, 80 students, 80.
Thank you.
Superintendent, you just reminded me of a question that I forgot that I wanted to ask, so thank you. So follow up real quick for Mr. Hernandez. Going back to the badge access and everything, I recall from my time at GLTS that not everyone gets access to everything. Because I was the marketing director, I did have access to the entire building with my badge. I'm assuming that's the same at your schools, that not everyone gets access school-wide, but certain points depending on rules and et cetera.
Correct, so staff will get access to, during certain times, depending on who you are, to the building.
Yeah. And for the superintendent, and then I'm going in, I have two questions that aren't safety related, okay. Superintendent, 80 students at RISE, do we have SRO officers there?
There is not an SRO assigned over there, no.
Why is that?
just not part of their, just not part of their structure over there. Obviously, the SROs, I think the SROs have been going by 2 times weekly to meet with their students. I think Officer Sapienza and Officer Hendrick have been going by on Tuesdays and Thursdays, to meet with their students, talk to their students. But just, just not part of their small school structure to have a full-time SRO assigned there.
Okay. Given the recent situation, do you believe that in the future there may be a need for an SRO officer to be there
I
full-time?
think, like I said earlier, I think, we'd love to expand the unit, whether that means a full-time SRO there, I'm not sure, but someone who can be around at all of our schools, yes. I think, they have a very good structure for screening students for safety over there. Part of our job now is to try to figure out what broke down in that system that they have. If you ever do a school visit over there, you'll see 4 or 5 staff members at the entrance, which is locked, and they have a long metal wand that they use to, screen students for safety. And I think all of their students are on board with that general structure to make sure that all those kids are safe. To kind of go back to what David mentioned earlier, I remember Councilor Rodriguez, many years ago, you would sometimes come down and meet with Mr. Fiato and, walk the campus. We absolutely, open that invitation for anybody who wants to come take a tour of the campus with Mr. Caraballo, Mr. Finn, or Mr. Hernandez. Again, I think, like David said, it's good just to see how everything is working in action, and if you have any feedback or thoughts on how things can be improved as far as our safety setup, because we'd love to get your input on that.
Okay. My question. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I have 2 other last.
Let's talk about the base situation first. Let's finish up on that.
I'm waiting for upward.
I just want to go back very quick before we finish up with the safety. So there is a situation currently that happened last week at Rice Academy. So do you think that, I'm going to emphasize on that questions, I mean, if we don't have that need now, how the staff is going to feel about it? I mean, do you think that they are feeling good about the situation?
Yeah, no, we were over there Thursday afternoon and Friday morning with their staff. They did a morning circle with their staff. Obviously, we told their staff that we felt they did a great job dealing with the situation as it happened. We did sit down to make sure that we could be there and talk to them if they had any concerns. Also checked in with the principal, Mr. Rassinen, again today. He said that there were no issues. But we'll probably head over later on in the week with the SROs when they do their regular visit, just to check in with the students and their staff.
Can you have like an SRO at least on the temporary basis there? Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure parents are not quite, understanding the situation and not necessarily comfortable.
I would assume if, just like any of our other schools, if they felt that they needed an SRO there for any reason, they would be able to get somebody there very quickly. Obviously, if Sergeant Caraballo felt like we needed somebody there on a temporary basis, we would be open to that as well. But at this time, we don't feel like there needs to be somebody there all day. I don't know if you feel any different.
Can you analyze the situation and provide us later on with an answer once you guys look into it? Because, I mean, just thinking about it, you look at it from the student perspective, you look at it from the staff perspective, but there is a community safety net that is not probably there. I mean, how we can, I'm pretty sure that if people don't know that there is an SRO there, they might feel uncomfortable a little bit. So can you guys look into it, talk about it, and then probably send us an email saying, look, this is our outcome of the issue?
Absolutely. We'll certainly continue to work on it. I will say that's part of the bridge we're trying to build with that population of students. A lot of them have been involved with law enforcement in the past, so they don't want SROs on campus. And I would hate to see if an SRO was there all the time, these kids are not going to school. So what we've been doing is implementing, hey, every couple of days, let's go by, let's talk to these kids, let's try to build those relationships. And now that's starting to happen. I just fear that if there was an SRO on campus all day, we may not see a lot of these kids coming to school.
Understood, fair enough. Councilor Infante.
Thank you, Chair. I have 2 final questions that don't have to do with safety. came to mind after I analyzed previous discussions. My first one, it's great to hear about teachers and staff and their needs and the amazing job that they're doing, but there's another side to that. And we've heard this from numerous community meetings, from just kids just talking to, at least to me, I can only speak for myself, but I certainly have heard concerns from students saying they don't care. If a student has a problem, they go to a teacher or whomever they feel comfortable, and they're just like, they don't care. What have we been doing to fix that situation, and how are you becoming aware of a staff member projecting this type of attitude towards students? Because students will continue, if they feel like they don't belong, they will continue engaging in activities that they probably shouldn't, or they won't go to school, no matter how many times we try to get them to go.
So you're hearing from some young folks who are saying that they might have a concern about their schoolwork or safety or something, and they might talk to their teacher, and the teacher will say,
It could be, sorry to interrupt, it could be schoolwork, it could be, conflict with other students, anything, any situation that they have gone to an adult and the adult shows no interest, obviously.
yeah, I mean, that's disappointing to hear. Obviously, we want all the folks who, not just the teachers, but all the folks who work in our schools to respond to students or families when they're expressing a concern, whether they need extra help or they don't understand some work, or they feel like maybe, another student in class is bothering them. I would encourage those students just to email us at the superintendent email address. That will come right to the leadership team, and we can get in direct contact with them. Also, there's ways for those students to relay those issues to their student government representatives at the high school anyways. We meet with the student cabinet at the high school. I know Mr. Caraballo meets with the student government leaders, and then, continue on with what Superintendent Paris did with the student cabinet. We meet with them monthly as well to discuss what their concerns are. So we would encourage those students to talk to their reps and talk to us about it, or email us, or just talk to us when we're in the building, raise those concerns with anyone, with their school principal, with me, with anyone on the district leadership. Because again, that's disappointing to hear. That's obviously not the message that we want to send to our young folks, that, we don't care enough to help them with whatever issue that, they're dealing with.
Thank you. And to add to that, if these students do reach out to administration or someone in higher leadership, I certainly don't want to hear or see teachers or employees being mistreated because of this. I definitely want to see them, you guys engaging in healthy communication and helping that employee. Because sometimes you might not even realize that. It could be a bad day. You might not even realize that you did it.
Yeah, no, and we have an employee assistance program that is free to all of our employees if they are dealing with something in their personal life, or struggling with something health-wise themselves, or a family member that they do need assistance with. Obviously that is something that we offer as a district to make sure that they're offering great customer service to our kids and to our families.
Thank you. And then my final question, let me just cross that out. Going back to the job fair that the district is having this Saturday, I believe you said?
Correct.
This Saturday. So obviously, as we discussed earlier, there are situations or challenges with salaries where people are looking to get higher salary, especially new folks that may be coming into the system. What are we doing to kind of like balance that out, to retain our current employees that have been with us for years, that have higher education, that have been doing the work? What are we doing to incentivize and retain them compared to newcomers that are expecting to say, like, to have, like, for example, like the same price salary as someone who's been doing the job for like 15 years?
Yeah, I know. I think, we want to make sure that we are attractive to attract new folks, but also that we are offering things to folks who have been here for a while. Obviously, you want to make sure that everybody feels valued. You want new folks to be excited about the opportunity here instead of looking at other places, but we also want to make sure that folks who have been here don't start looking other places as well, because if we hire 2 but we lose 3, it's, we're still behind. So I think, it's our job at the leadership team level on the district side to figure out, how much money we have left for this year. What can we do as far as, some things we talked about, signing bonuses, retention bonuses, if we can, to make sure that we get new candidates who are excited about working in Lawrence, and also retain folks who have been here and doing a good job for a long time, so.
Thank you. Can you provide us one example of what we've done to help retain our current, more experienced staff members or employees?
Yeah, I think, the teachers' union and the district leadership, I think, about a year ago, maybe close to a year ago, finally settled on a contract. I think that made us a lot more attractive compared to our old salary scale. Obviously, there are other things that folks can do as far as teaching an acceleration academy and maybe making $4,000. Of course, it's extra work, but it is a way to supplement your salary. Also, other things to apply for within a district, such as the advanced or expert teacher applications, where you can serve as kind of like a role model for other teachers and have other teachers observe you in your expertise, I think are ways that folks can get more remuneration and also have other folks learn from them at the same time. So, those are a bunch of things. We're actually meeting with Regis College tomorrow on our partnership with Regis on, some of the programs that we do with Northern Essex, LWFI, and Regis as far as, parent to para, para to teacher programs. Again, most of these folks are local folks who might be in the paraprofessional workforce, who are bilingual, bicultural folks who don't have their bachelor's degree, which is the major issue with getting a teaching position. So, we have been working with the teacher diversification grant. Maricel and the HR office has been, working with funds on, how to make sure that we can take folks who might be in a different position and, get them additional education to get them to be eligible to be a teacher, so.
Thank you.
Councilor Rosario?
And Superintendent, following up on that, what are you doing to send a message out there that working at the LPS is not, there's no hostile work environment, because it's out there. It's all over the place. What are we doing to change that mentality?
Yeah, I think, the way I've been for the last 18 years here is I've always tried to talk to folks, whether teachers, family members, other people, about, why I think working in Lawrence has been great personally for me, why it's a great career move, how you can, talk to me and other folks in the district about any type of concerns that you have. Without being, fearful or anything else. I would certainly hate for any folks to, to think that by talking to me or somebody else that they're, open to, any type of hostility or anything like that. I think, like you said earlier, we want to make sure that everything is transparent, from our achievement data to our student behavior data to our retention data, all those things. I'm certainly not afraid about having any type of conversation on any data point for the district. Because the data will help us find a solution, for whatever it is, whether it's teacher retention or student test scores or discipline, looking at the data honestly and having a constructive conversation like I think we've had tonight about how to improve things. Obviously we want to hire more local folks. It's better for the community when we have local folks because they're less apt to move on, right? And they're more apt to stay with us, gain experience and do a great job for our kids. We want to make sure that we're providing all of our kids an excellent education, and I think, we're doing some things great right now. We have a lot of work to do in other areas, and I look forward to more conversations, as long as I'm the interim superintendent, on how we can keep moving the district forward and the city forward.
I have a few other questions, just to follow up on that. Is anybody in the district that is making less than the Massachusetts minimum wage?
I could check on that. I don't believe so. I believe we've come to agreement with all of our collective bargaining units. So I can double check on that and I can give you an exact answer. But I believe with all the agreements that we've come to in the past year and a half with the teachers, with the paras, CAF workers, I believe custodians, school safety as well, I believe that we have surpassed the minimum wage in all of our contracts, but I'll double check on that for you.
Now that you mentioned the CAF workers, there is a movement up there in terms of a stipend going on for serve. Have you guys looked into that? Because I think it's important.
I think, I've been looking a lot at it last month and a half. We've gotten a lot of emails from folks. The CAF workers have come over, dropped off a petition. They did a little kind of press conference outside on Essex Street. We have looked into that. I believe that we came to agreement with them about a year ago. So it's not that long ago when we settled the contract, but we are taking a look at that. No update on that yet, but we are taking a look at that.
Yeah, essentially what they're looking is to have, I know that there is like 3 different unions that deal with the CAF workers, and a union getting stepping for something and they all doing the same type of work. So it is, I think it's important to treat everybody equal. It doesn't matter what the union that they belong to. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a matter of just doing the job done and with love and respect. And if they're doing that, if they deserve it, I think that we should look into it. All right, I have another question in regard to the students. When it comes to suspensions, and there is based on your comment, since November 2022, the law changed, and you need to do specific steps to be able to accomplish a result within a student that went through a situation. Walk me through of the after the facts. Some a student gets suspended, or perhaps not necessarily suspended, but went through the process. So walk me through that. What does that look like?
So, okay, so just for an example, I'll just use a high school student just because, my last 12 years were at high school. So perhaps we have a 10th grade student, who has been, treating a classmate unkindly, calling them names, maybe using derogatory language. So the culture specialist would sit down with that student, say, this is our code of conduct, and these types of behaviors are unacceptable. What is making you feel this way, to react towards the other student that way. We would document that meeting. We would also call the student's parents and say, hey, we sat down with your child and we went over the code of conduct, and right now how they can be seen as violating the code of conduct. Can you come in and have a meeting with us? And we log that as well. So we have to document these steps. If the student continues the behavior and maybe escalates and shoves the other student on the stairs, or maybe throws a pencil at the other student during class, then we have the documentation that would support if we do feel like we have to do an in-school or an out-of-school suspension. We can say, we've already met with the student, we've met with the student and the other student, so that we tried to do a mediation and the behavior still continued. That way we have the documentation that said, we're not just implementing an in-school or out-of-school suspension without any other remedies, but we tried A, B, and C, and the student still chose to do a behavior that's against our code of conduct, so then we are implementing this as a disciplinary consequence.
So you mentioned the parents' involvement throughout the process. How that look like?
Yeah, I think, the parents, obviously, we want to keep, anytime we talk to students, we want to let parents know that we're talking to students and what the reason is for. And, if they can join us by phone or by Zoom, or they can come in person, I think that's always, always a key to make sure that the parents are involved and understand what's happening, so that they can also give their kids guidance at home as well, to make sure that the students stay out of trouble. So I think at every point, we want to make sure that the parents are involved. Obviously, if we are holding a hearing that could be a suspension, we are required to send the parents notice of that hearing and make sure that they can attend either in person, by phone, or via Zoom.
Understood. So, question will be in regard to when it comes to safety. There is a lot of concern from parents, and we have had meetings with parents, and we have tried to get more parents involved. And doing the coffee time, doing them in the morning, and so far, so on. A lot of the parents, they contact us. They reach out to the counselors, to the school committee members, and some of the concerns that they have were around having a PowerPoint presentation, perhaps kind of like a PowerPoint presentation, and not necessarily listen to their concern. Instead, what the school district have done is to inform the parents what you guys are doing, instead of listening to them, and develop an approach that actually can get them more involved in a way that they can feel more comfortable around the schools. So walk me through how the school is pretend to change that environment in terms of not just talking, instead more listening to the parents.
Yeah, I think, and information sessions are great, but I think listening sessions, like Councilor Infante was saying earlier, whether it's teachers or community members, also just as valuable, if not more valuable. Again, going back to, when I was working directly with a group of students and families in grade 10, for example, we'd have weekly workshops, especially during the COVID close down over that year and a half. We would have a regular Wednesday meeting. at 5 o'clock via Zoom, and oftentimes, for 2 of the meetings during the month, we would set the agenda, and then the other 2, the parents would pick. So as we were ending COVID shutdown and we were coming back to in-person, what parents wanted to talk about most was transportation. So we decided to do just a session on transportation. Okay, where's my kid's bus stop? How do I know what time it's coming? We asked them for input prior to the meeting on what they wanted to know, so we could give them that general information. And then we were able to, send them exact information on what bus route they were on, because they hadn't been in school for a year and a half, and even the 10th graders who were coming back did not have the benefit of being in school during 9th grade to go over those things. So whether it was on discipline, oftentimes the families want to talk about food services and school lunches and things like that. Other times, it's more specific things where we would talk to smaller groups of parents who were involved, who were really interested in hearing about early college or after dark, and we would do smaller meetings just for those parents, like interest groups. So I think that we could definitely do that, for the district as well. What parents want to talk about? Do they want to talk about Power School? Do they want to talk about Blackboard? Do they want to talk about uniforms? What do they want to talk about? And have them pick the topic, and then have them send us questions that they have on a topic, and then we can tell them exactly what they want to talk about and listen to what their thoughts are. So.
When it comes to safety, is that the same approach, especially last year that we were having some
Yeah.
issues here, issues there?
I think,
Now, this year, we've been having a few, I believe 5 weapon incidents. That not necessarily means guns, but it means any type of weapon.
Yeah, any type of weapon is concerning. Obviously firearms are most concerning, right? We have a gun stolen out of Nevada that shows up at Lawrence High School. I think the general concern is just the amount of firearms that are accessible to young people. I'd love to sit down and talk with families. Again, it's a community discussion on just safety in general. When we spoke in my office, I'd be glad to talk to folks wherever I see them, whether it's at church or at Market Basket or in just a general setup session where folks want to come and talk about something that's important to them. And again, for some folks, it might be they want to talk about safety, it's most important. Others might want to talk to Mr. Nealon about athletics, right? Again, I'd be open to setting up meetings on whatever discussion folks want to talk about.
Do you mind setting up something regard to safety
Yeah.
with the parents?
Absolutely.
Because we have a couple of incidents lately, and there is parents up there saying we're not talking about that necessarily at the school level, or they are talking. We're not doing the talking. We want to do the talking.
Yeah. Well, I think we want to listen, just like you, right? We want to listen to what the community is saying and then get them the answers that they want. And again, whether it's on what folks feel about metal detectors or uniforms, I want to listen to the community. Obviously, it's not going to be 100%, right? But I think we need to listen to everybody's opinion, and then on the school side, and just like you folks have to do on the city council, you have to make the best decision that you think benefits the community in general. And I think we're open to doing that on any subject, but safety specifically, I think it would be a great topic for all of us.
Yeah,
to
definitely.
discuss.
We would like to see that, and please invite us over, because
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
something that we wanna listen to. Councilors, there is any other question in regard to safety or safety-related question dealing with the Lawrence Public Schools in general, or in particular the Lawrence High School?
I have a comment.
Okay, Councilor Infante.
Final comment. I want to say thank you, Superintendent, for coming tonight. Obviously, it's been like a hour and a half, 2-hour meeting. Lots of questions, tough questions, some of them. Your responses, I can genuinely tell that you want to help. You want to improve our district, and I'm hoping to see those changes. Obviously, they won't happen overnight, but you appear to be very open-minded and willing to step in wherever you can, so I definitely appreciate that. And my final comment to Mr. Hernandez, I would love to go through your training. Like I said, I did it at GLTS, so would love to learn how you guys do it at Lawrence High or any of our schools, so thank you.
No, absolutely. We thank you for the invite. Obviously, all of us, Mr. Finn, Mr. Hernandez, Sergeant Carballo. Unfortunately, if you have seen a video of any type of disturbance at the high school, you've probably seen us in the middle of it. So, we lived it. We don't like being in those situations any more than parents like seeing their kids close to those situations. And again, going back to what Councilor Del Rosario said, we have to be honest about and transparent about the issues that we're facing so that we can come up with good resolutions that will benefit our kids and the community.
Does any other questions? I wanted to use just a comment. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Superintendent. This meeting was scheduled last Tuesday at 7 p.m. and within a week, the meeting got done. Those are not horrible meetings. We have an hour and a half talking, discussing what the community is concerned about, and most of the questions were around your plans. So thank you so much. Thank all of you for being here. It was well overdue meeting that we had and that we request, and we definitely appreciate all of you to be here tonight. So with that said, councilors, we have. Can you get a motion to table item 22921 and 25619?
So moved.
All right, there is a motion on the table, properly second. I call the questions. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Councilors, there is any other items that we would like to discuss tonight or request any particular report? I have one particular item that we would like to bring up just for a report for next meeting, so we can be ready. And this is item. Poor spot.
You know I have to say something, right? First of all, I want to thank the superintendent, Mr. Finn, David, and the police officers here tonight. As you can see, we want to collaborate with the city. But while you guys were talking about public safety, I couldn't help but think about what happened today in Nashville. And there's 3 parents tonight that are not going to tuck their kids into bed tonight, and 3 other families that are just besides themselves that they've lost a family member. I think the bigger issue that we need to talk about is the mental health crisis in this country. And until legislators, elected officials, and just a community like ours can wrap their heads around a crisis that we're all having, and we have to admit that we're having that crisis. What I can foresee with this group and with the school department, that we put our heads together and try to come up with some solution. Our kids are hurting, and the schools cannot protect the kids. If this was a Christian school, and who would have thought that someone would have gone into that school with plans that knew where the doors were, where the classrooms were? This is what we need to be focusing on and thinking about how we can help our students and come up with some out-of-the-box solutions for the mental health crisis in this country.
Councilor Infante.
Through you, Chair. Ms. Committeewoman Mariano, just a point of clarification through my day job as a legislative affairs manager for Greater Lawrence Family Health Center. I know at the federal level, the HELP Committee, which stands for Health, Education, Labor, and Pension, they've recently asked the National Associations of Community Health Centers to provide information on the shortages in our medical field, particularly primary care and behavioral health. So I can tell you, things are moving along. It's something that we were just in Washington like 2 weeks ago advocating for the same things that you're talking about. And the conversations are happening. Hopefully we'll get funding, and hopefully more people will put more people into these positions. It won't happen overnight, but just know that
At least we're taking a step in that direction. And I think the collaboration between the city council and the school department, we can work towards that. So that's my little commercial for tonight, and thank you very, very much for hosting us.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Pat. Councilors, I won't take this item out of table, so we're just gonna request it through email, through the police department, so we can discuss it later on. So, councilors, at this point, I entertain any motion.
Second.
All right, there is a motion to adjourn, properly second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, thank you.